What's up, my nerds? So it's time to have a talk here. I just got finished watching X-Men 97 episode 5, and you know what? Thought it'd be a good time to kind of recap the first 5 episodes since we're at the halfway point, but Jesus Christ, is episode 5 heavy as fuck. Let's work our way from the beginning and go back there, because going to need a little bit of moment here. We try to keep this as spoiler-free as possible. Honestly, you know what? No. It's spoilerific, so if you haven't watched it, go fucking run and watch it now. Stop waiting on it. Jump on it. Because damn. This show has been anything short of spectacular. Not a Spider-Man reference. It's just fucking awesome. If we were looking for puns, I'd say astonishing. It's fucking just great. You know, when they announced this revitalization of the classic X-Men cartoon, I think everybody was skeptical. I was skeptical. I was like, oh, Marvel, don't fuck this up. Also, if you bring it back, what can you do to enhance the experience? What are we doing? What expectations do we have, right? All of that out the window. They have knocked it out of the ballpark with this show. Animation has been fucking superb. The acting, great. Brought back the majority of the voice cast. Phenomenal. The new cast members doing a great job. But the storytelling, Jesus Christ, the storytelling has been so great. The episodes just keep getting better and better and better. Episode 1 takes place a year after the last episode of X-Men the Animated Series. Which is in 1997, right? So Xavier's been killed by Henry Gyrick, and now they're trying to figure out how to carry on. Scott's having a hard time getting control of the team, and it's a little dysfunctional, but then you see them come together during a Sentinel crisis, akin to the first episode of the original series. Phenomenal action sequences. Magneto's brought into the fold as he's now the headmaster and changing his ways to follow Charles' dreams. So that leads into episode 2. The mutant liberation begins. And in this one, the government's coming after Magneto for his crimes. And we have great segment where he actually surrenders himself to the UN. And we also get introduced to the Executioner from the comics. In this, he's an ex. Forgot what the name of the organization is right now. I'm going freaking blank. Not the MRD, but anyways, Friends of Humanity. Stupid. The Friends of Humanity. Sorry, I really am just bamboozled by what I just watched. So we get introduced to him. More awesome action scenarios. In this, Storm is shot and depowered. So we get a throwback to the classic Barry Windsor Smith days of her in Australia. The Chris Claremont era is on point here. And then we're going to Fire Made Flesh. Inferno. We saw the teasers and the trailers, and we get a full-blown horror episode. I mean, the shit that they had in this episode was fucking dark, twisted, greatness, everything it should have been for Madeline Pryor, and our reintroduction into Sinister. I love this episode so much. The visuals were just crazy, and they have been, but this one for a horror aspect nailed every point. We also have the reintroduction of Jean Grey. Who's who? Well, we know who's who. But when were they split? When was she cloned? When did all of this happen? That's the big question right now. But awesome storytelling between the drama between Scott and Madeline and Jean now, and you know, she's just had baby Nathan, aka Cable. Sinister's introducing him to the techno-organic virus, which we know leads to him to being Cable. We get a deviation from the storyline in which Bishop is still trapped here. He ends up taking Cable to the future instead of the Askani, her sister Rachel. So cool deviation there. Great episode. 4 is Motendo for the first 15, which is Jubilee's sucked into an 8-bit world that looks like the classic X-Men game, the 4-player game. Dude, such a fun episode. I wish this actually would have went 30 minutes versus 15. This is my only complaint so far this season. Each one of these episodes I feel should have had their own run full instead of splitting it in half. But Jubilee is sucked into the Mojoverse on her 18th birthday with Sunspot. She's, like, as I mentioned, now in the 8-bit game. Marvel, if you guys don't capitalize and make a fucking video game out of this, like, you guys are just dropping the ball. That shit is a moneymaker. So many downloads. That, sell it for $1. I mean, that, honestly, if you could make $1, sell it for $1 and still profit beyond means. Another little cool aspect in this one is we get an older version of Jubilee that saves her. That's voiced by the original actress, which is really, really cool. A full circle moment there. But really cool growth for Jubilee, who, you know, she's always been a sidekick in the original series. She's always been just there. And here she was the forefront, and she much deserves it. Her power set is growing, and they show what she's capable of in it, and it was fucking great. The second half is leaning more into the life-death story I was mentioning with Storm, and her relationship with Forge. Great story from the comics. That one kind of slows the pace down. A lot of narrative there, which there's a part 2 coming. I feel like it all should have been in one episode versus split. That's my only thing. Great still. And then we go into what I just fucking watched, which is Remember It. Episode 5. Whoa. What they've... The emotional impact that they've made in this one single episode is on par for Endgame. And I shit you not. I know we're talking about a cartoon here, but it was such great writing. So Gambit tags along with Magneto and Rogue, who are now in this love triangle. I forgot to mention earlier, but they've resurfaced an old story from the Jim Lee, Chris Claremont days where Rogue and Magneto had a little thing going on, right? So now they've incorporated that into the storylines when Rogue was younger. Mystique took her to Magneto to help train her and help her with her powers, and they kind of had a thing going on. It was never ever mentioned to or alluded to in the original series, and felt like a bit of a plot hole, but they they were able to pick up the pace here and say that essentially Magneto went on to his own shit and just forgot about it as if she was nothing. And so she did the same thing, just put it to the side, with Magneto coming back on the hero side and showing a different side of himself. It stirred some feelings. Either way, there's shit going on there. Gambit ain't happy about it. So they're going to Genosha. They've been invited to Genosha by the Council of Mutants that have been created to again see what they've been able to accomplish with a mutant society. On the other spectrum of things, we've got the rest of the team are at home filming a documentary or new special with Trish Tilby. So they're doing candid interviews. Great interviews, by the way. The conversation with Hank is awesome. The conversation with Scott in particular is fucking great because he just fucking unloads and necessarily unloads, and completely honest with her when asked, recognizing their position in the world. The X-Men are there to save humans' asses. The humans wouldn't be around if not for mutants and the X-Men, and he's tired of fucking saving their ass. Like, he's just needs the recognition, needs it to be known. You're here because of us. And that was such a kick-ass moment. Like, he just fucking owned it. And then we've got still the confusion going on. He's still in his feels from having to let Nathan Christopher go to the future with Bishop. The chaos between Madeline and Jean. But he's also secretly been having like little psychic conversations with Madeline, and Jean busts him, and she loses her shit and has a really cool moment where she cuts loose and finally gives into her impulses and kisses Wolverine. That was really cool. We've seen that happen in the comics. It's always been a thing, but I like the fact that Logan was man enough to be like, hey man, I know you're in your feelings. We're going to call this a one-off. Scott's your dude. It is what it is. I'm in love with you, but I'm not the one. I know I'm not the one, regardless of how I feel. Go fix your shit. That was a really cool scenario. Now let's get back to Genosha. So the council, as I mentioned, it's a council of mutants to regulate things. Val Cooper is there from the government human side. They have one human member, which is Moira McTaggart. Banshee's there. The Black King, Sebastian Shaw, White Queen, Emma Frost. Who am I forgetting? There's a handful of people there. I can't remember all of them. Anyways, they want Magneto to be their king and be the forefront. We're now in the Magneto was right phase, which is pushing towards a Grant Morrison era, right? Which is good and bad. That was a total revitalization of the X-Men line and kind of brought them back to the forefront again. When I think they got lost for a little bit in the comics. So they haven't been tricked or anything. They just want him to be, and they're presented to him, and he doesn't know what to do. He says he'll only take it if he has a bit of consciousness on his side. So he wants Rogue to be his queen, an X-Man. She's faced with this moment now, and then, as I mentioned, Remy's walking around. We've got cameos from Dazzler, great scenarios with Nightcrawler, a lot of the new Young Mutants from the Grant Morrison era, like Glob, Pixie, even Exodus is in one scene along with Multiple Man, which are really, really cool cameos, right? This all leads to a gala where they're going to announce whether she does it or not. She confides in Gambit, Rogue confides in Gambit, and explains what she feels about Magneto and the fact that she wants to take this role on and, you know, see what she can do for the mutant community. If she has an opportunity to be more, she wants to be more. So Remy breaks up with her. It breaks his heart, but he breaks up with her, and, you know, he's always going to be there for her, but as a friend. So that was kind of real world-ish conversation there. Like, hey, I'm good, you know, but I'm not going to be anything more than a friend, and I'm not going to pretend to be, right? Even though that's the love of his life. You know, I'll be here whenever you're ready, but until then, I'm just your friend. So then the gala happens. Get this cool scenario with Magneto and Rogue dancing, kind of showing their union. And she tells him, basically, he's not the one, you know. She wants to move over with Remy. And Remy's kind of seeing this going on the side and in his feelings, tears, like heartbroken. And Madeline's there too. And there was a quick little thing I noticed too. It looked like Madeline was kind of like vibing on Remy. So I feel like, given what wasn't about to happen, that might have been another love interest. I don't know. She kind of had eyes on him, given what just happened with Scott, right? And then a shitstorm happens. If you're familiar with the Morrison era, then you know that Cassandra Nova launched a wild sentinel and genocide. I'm talking genocide on Genosha, obliterated the mutant community. And we got that here in the craziest sequence ever. Like the action, the drama between the couples, the drama between the society, like the storytelling on this episode in particular was just so fucking on point in every single aspect. But then you close it off with this massacre, and they're showing people dying left and right. It's been called online the red wedding of animation of the MCU, and it's right, man. This episode in particular was directed by Emi Yonemura, and she killed it. But yeah, so we have the whole scenario going on. Magneto is trying to save as many people as possible. He's trying to save the Morlocks. Gambit, in a bit of irony, if you're familiar with the comics, he led Mr. Sinister's Marauders to find the Morlocks and initially cause a mutant massacre. Here he's saving all the mutants from the massacre, or the Morlocks from the massacre. Yeah, man, he kicks ass. Rogue's kicking ass. Magnus is kicking ass. Yes, Magnus, aka Magneto. But it's too much for them. Like, that Sentinel is just obliterating everything in its path. Everything in its path. To the point where Magneto's shielding a couple of Morlocks and knows he's done. And protects Rogue and Gambit from getting involved in trying to save them, and dies. He's killed with those Morlocks. Rogue loses her shit, is heading straight towards the fucking Sentinel, And Gambit has been, Gambit, much like Cyclops, has been given, all these background characters I feel have been given their due this season. Jubilee, Cyclops, Gambit in this episode in particular, whoops so much ass. Like, it's crazy. His scenarios, his stunts, his sequences are top notch to this point where he knocks Rogue out of the air with a supercharged, kinetically charged bike that he's on. Full Akira mode. We got a Akira homage in there as well. Before getting marked by the freaking Sentinel. Like, he going straight towards him, Sentinel rams him, impales him, and on the spot. And Gambit kills it with these lines. And if you remember with the old Genosha line, that's where he first gave his most memorable line. The name's Gambit. Remember it. And that was the title of this episode. Look, I'm already getting a little teary-eyed from the it's weird. It's so weird how this impacts me. I think not only from the nostalgia, but just from the storytelling. It's emotionally impacting. In his dying breath, he charges the Sentinel. Fully charges it and destroys it. Dying in the process, of course. He's already dead from the impalement. But destroys it single-handed. Omega level. They had disregarded him before and recognized Magneto as an Omega level mutant. And then Gambit comes along and fucks up their world and kills them, dies, and the very last scene is so... Oh, actually, missed the spot. Before that even starts, Cable comes out of nowhere in a cool cameo and says he's too late to save. And Madeline sees him and looks at him in the eyes and recognizes her son. She's like, Nathan. He's like, I'm too late too late again, Mom. Disappears, and then the Sentinel shows up. Sorry, I missed that. That was a pretty critical point, and I'll say that here in a second. But Rogue, Rogue's holding Remy's corpse, and she's just crying, and she says, I can't feel you. Dude. It's a crazy ass episode. And from what I've so far from reading, the writer of this show, Bo, was fired, of course, but he kind of went on Twitter and said, we're just ramping up here. It's still going to get heavier. And I'm like, shit, this is heavy. How can you keep getting better? And they do. And I'm excited for what comes next. But here's the only thing that, as impactful as this, and I don't think it'll take away from it at all, is given time travel's been a thing on the X-Men shows, and Cable pops up, and then he says, I'm too late again. He's trying to prevent this, and clearly has been trying to prevent this, and will prevent this, because I don't think they're going to keep these as hard deaths. I don't think Magneto and Gambit are going to remain dead, or Madeline. They're going to bring them back in some way, either this season or next season. I'm hoping next season, honestly. I hope they let this drag out for a little bit. I feel like even in the comics, people are resurrected too soon or rebooted too soon. Let them die for a while. Let them just sit back and let that resurrection be impactful. But yeah, great season so far, as I said. Look what it did to fucking me. And damn near 99% of anybody that's watched it. My boy, man. Gambit. Always been a fan. Always knew his potential. In the comics, he's shown it. I'm glad that they did it in animated form. I don't think this could be pulled off in live action. Like, in live action, this would be crazy. To me, this was Avengers Endgame level. Like, this was Tony Stark's sacrifice. That's how big it was and felt. Let me know what you thought in the comments. Yeah, and just remember, appreciate you.